plus myself. So we can start this focus I will do on the next generation EU and the national recovery and resilience plans from Italy, having a comparison with other European recovery plans. So I can start sharing my screen so you can see my presentation. So everybody can hear me? Somebody say me yes or in the chat.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we
fantastic.
can see you.
Ready to start, everybody? Okay,
Perfect, Prof.
right. Very good. All right. Mm, right. Now I'm start sharing my presentation for today. Okay, I think you can see. First of all, give ourselves some rules. The first one is if you are tired, please interrupt me. We can have a pause because I'm gonna talk for about 2 hours. I know that talking for 2 hours is very tough, and so also hearing for 2 hours. So you can interrupt me whenever you want to have a pause to rest a bit. The second rule is that I'm strongly believing in interaction. Using these methods is a poor um, interaction activity system. So if you want to pose a question, please feel free to do in every moment. I, to be honest, I don't like that lecturer that says no. The question only in the on the end because I'm interrupting. I'm losing concentration. These are silly things about for me. So feel free to, if you have a question, something is not clear, could be happen. I want to avoid that, but I'm not sure to succeed in doing that. Please pose the question whenever you feel to do that. Take into consideration that I have the full screen mode, so I'm losing the chat, the interaction with the chat. So for this reason, this is another penalty for myself, and so I cannot properly interact to you. So, but open your microphone, and then pose the question with no trouble, no issue, absolutely. All right, let me open the curtain like I'm used to do and start with this lecture in which you can see the focus will be on National Recovery and Resilience Plan and the comparison with other European recovery plans. In FRED 2, we are focusing a lot on fraud, and we have to take into consideration the mother of all the measure of all the European National Recovery Plan, which is Next Generation EU. I prefer to call Next Generation EU instead of Recovery Plan. Recovery Plan is sad to me. It remembers things that I hope we passed, and the projection with the future in the name Next Generation EU is much better, and so I used to call this one. This for introducing the fact that before starting our focus on the Italian PNRR, like we see, National Recovery and Resilience Plan, Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza, we have to focus on the father, Next Generation EU. So the first introductory table will be about that. So I will start, as you can see, in my table of contents with an overview, of the multi-annual financial framework, the long-term budget of the European Union that in 2021 up to 2027 had this important, let me call, revolution. I will go through, explain why I'm calling revolution this plan called Next Generation EU. Afterward, we will see the origin of the Italian National Recovery and Resilience Plan, giving an overview on the structure, on some important elements, such as the governance, such as the new principles, new rule that the plan is starting from scratch in this case. Afterward, we will have something out of the not out of scope, but out of the plan of the agenda, because in the agenda, you see, my interview is related to the comparison with other European recovery and resilience plan. But before, I want to also, because I know that the audience is composed by a lot of participants to the postgraduate master in European plan, in European projects, I want to do something original, let me say. So a comparison between the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, the Italian one, and Horizon Europe. Just to see that there are a lot of similarities, we will discuss together. Afterwards will be the focus, so really the comparison between the National Recovery and Resilience Plan with the other plans. Of course, we cannot take all the 26 plan in Europe, otherwise 2 hours is not enough. It it takes more than a week to talk about all the recovery and resilience plan for all the 27 European countries. We will focus on 3, 4, the neighbor one, so the France one, the French, sorry, National Recovery and Resilience Plan. We will see the Spanish one and the Greek one. We will last this focus on 3 plans. Otherwise, it takes really a lot of time. On the end, I want to focus also on another important thing, which is the measurement of the economic impact on the GDP, but not only the GDP, all the economics, the major economics that should be taken into consideration in doing this exercise. And we will see, of course, this projection, this simulation has been done at the time that the NRRP was made. So now, we can take into account that we are living in a different world. We had 2 wars and an inflation that changed completely the set of prices in Europe and in the world. The cost of energy is dramatically increased, and so everything is different. But it is also nice to have an idea about the measurement of the economic impacts, because we can talk about a situation in which the National Recovery and Resilience Plan is not present, so the ordinary situation, and the contribution given by the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. In these terms, we can image the measurement of the impact. So let's start, if you agree. Again, if you have questions, stop me in any moment. An overview of the multi-annual financial framework 2021-2027. So let me start with a consideration. Now we are arrived at the midterm of the multi-annual financial framework, and I have to advise you that some people in Brussels mainly are already scratching the heads because they are thinking about the next multi-annual financial framework, the one going from 2028 up 2030 and 31, and so and 32, sorry, and the path is very long. Okay, now let's fly away this plane and see the amount of the multi-annual financial framework. Somebody can say, "Oh, Resta is crazy because he's talking about different figures compared to the one that it is the habit." But I took this figure because this is the actual figure. It's the figure in current prices, compared to the fact that the ordinary amount of the multi-annual financial framework, it is usually expressed in price of 2018, also the next generation EU. So if we consider now in current price the long-term budget, I used to call long-term budget of the EU is the equal of multi-annual financial framework. It's absolutely the same. So the first component, the pure budget, as you can see, is 1,216 billion under the framework, the financial framework in current price. And the components named Next Generation EU is now in current price 807 billion. And this is the extraordinary components added on top the usual multi-annual financial framework due to, of course, the pandemic. Okay, now we can see also the previous. Now, before considering the old price, so the figure that we are in our mind, so 1,080, more or less 1,800 billion for the multi-annual financial framework and 750 for Next Generation EU, which is probably the figure we have in mind. But this is valid also for, say, pay attention that talking about budget, it is very absolutely dramatically important to understand in which price we are talking about. Because it is not, if you say that the multi-annual financial framework for 2021 and 2027 is 1,080 billion, it is correct, but it's not actual, because once again, it's in price of 2018. So, in fact, this is the common expression, because the political agreement of the budget, of the long-term budget, arrived very late, on 17th December 2020. I remember that period. It was really tragic to find an agreement. I remember I was in a conference in Rome, organized by the Chamber of Commerce, I remember, and there was the direct connection with the Council of the European Union. And I remember the face of Charles Michel when, under the Finnish presidency of the Union, the political agreement, aborted in October. And for this reason, it was really tough to find an agreement. Also because you have to take into consideration that the pandemic was changing all the destiny of our continent, of our union. Okay, but let's skip this kind of consideration, social consideration, and let's focus on what we have in mind. So the multi-annual financial framework. First of all, spending areas. You can see the spending areas of the budget are 7. The first one, the single market, innovation and digital, and you can see the first line in the slide. The second, the cohesion, resilience and value. This is the name of the spending area of the chapter, of the section of the multi-annual financial framework. Natural resources and environment. You can see the amount, the related amount in current price. Areas. In the first 3 spending areas, we are talking about hundreds of billion. And for migration and border management, you can see the dramatic decrease of amount of money. Only is a big objective, but 26.2 billion euro. Furthermore, the fifth spending area is the security and defense. Keep into consideration the defense also in terms of military. Now there is probably you heard about the news yesterday. President Macron in France declared that the French budget for defense is will be dramatically increased since the next period. And this, of course, due to the contingent situation we're living now. The sixth spending area is neighborhood and the world. So everything outside is the exogenous part of the budget. And the seventh one is the European public administration. This is the cost. So this is the spending area of bureaucracy, like people against the European Union and European institution can define. But as you can see, compared to the budget, the percentage of 82 billion is really something not big compared to other the same component in other budgets. When I cannot remember, probably when we had a workshop for an open day for the postgraduate master, I had the idea to make a strange comparison between the long-term budget of the European Union and make a comparison with the Italian budget, the Republic of Italy budget, and the city of Rome, Roma Capitale budget. It was an exercise theoretically, but in this seventh spending area, we can see that the budget of 82 billion and half a billion of euro for the functioning of the union it is really poor compared to the fact that we have to take into consideration also the ratio with the population. Europe comprises something like 500 million of inhabitants, and this of course is a parameter to be taken into account. So let's see again the seventh spending area, but now you can see on the right column in the total, these are the figures referred to in price of 2018. So again, when I talk about the multi-annual financial framework with 1,000, and 824.3 billion of euro, and the components of Next Generation EU is 750 billion. This, of course, you can see a first information that the components, the new added components for the pandemic crisis, Next Generation EU, is not covering all the 7 areas, for example. Because, of course, nothing is in Next Generation EU. The idea was to recovery from the pandemic, so to increase development, economic development. So for this reason, you can easily understand that the items from 4 up to 7, it is not containing any additional budget of Next Generation EU. This is very clear, I guess. This is an infography you can find on the Consilium website, and you can see the components compare of the budget, the multi-annual financial framework, again referred in prices of 2018. You can see the different circles. From the main one on the left is the overall, but you can have an idea of all the 7 areas, and inside the components of the 7 areas, which is the split between some items. Of course, this is a summary. We cannot afford all the budget because it takes, again, time to do that. Of course, you will have this slide, so in some cases I will go very fast, but keep into consideration that these slides are always available. Let's go for just the first spending area, the single market, innovation and digital. This is the detail of the spending area. Just to have an idea that it is a lot of items that is composing any spending area, and this is trivial to say. On the left, you can see the website of the Consilium, in which you can find the infographic I copy paste in the previous slide. Now let's talk about Next Generation EU. This package lasting 4 years up to 2027, even we can have a direct consequence that the national recovery and resilience plan is the duration is 1 year less. And this is, of course, a technical, there is a technical explanation, because you cannot consider reimbursement of a budget up to the final year of the duration. I heard the mic open. There is a question or not? Should I go? All right. Okay. Let's now take into consideration the methods of financing. Why before I told you that is a revolutionary package, because for the first time there is the consideration that the Commission will produce a new union debit, not like a sum of the debit of the sovereign member state, but a debt coming directly from the union. So, in fact, as you can read from this 750 billion, the Commission will resort to financial market. So, issuing the euro bond, that with, of course, a low interest rate, but it is the maturity will be variable between 2028 up to 2058. So we can finish to reimburse this debt, this European debt, only in 2058. Of course, interest rate will be paid by these bonds by the Commission with own resources. Which are these resources? As you can see, VAT, green taxation, also new, further then to the contribution of the member state, of course, which is the main item. Also with the new sources that it is, you can read it in bracket, the so-called green sources, because of the taxation of the European emission, the trading emission system of the EU, the taxation of multinational who has the headquarter in some countries where the tax rate is minor than in the European Union, and all the transaction, the e-commerce, the e-transaction will be taxed for repaying this debt to resort the debt at maturity. Of course, it is the calculation made is, of course, a certain percentage up to the budget, and the comparison with this proportion and the European GDP, of course. Like when you want to buy a house, you have to take into consideration for asking for a loan to a bank, which are the revenues on which you can count in the future. And this is the same mechanism, of course. Let's see the redemption of security at maturity. Okay, the first one is own resources, and this is the tax is again the main item. But for the part not covered by the Commission, the contribution will be given by individual countries. And this is why the National Recovery and Resilience Plan has two components. One is grant, that money that you can use and stop, and the other is loans. So a component which is a real debt that you have to recover, and you have to redeem to the Commission. Of course, how to pay this part for every single member state issuing a debt security, like the mechanism used for create debt for any member state, any public administration. Let's go further and let's see the components there, which is the balance from loans and grants in the recovery funds in the next generation EU. As you can see, the projection is about a disbursement of 20.4% of grants and a repayment of share of the debt of 12 and 8. Now we will see in our National and Recovery and Resilience Plan why it is so different, the percentage. I can anticipate that the people against Europe say that Europe cover Italy of debts because of this huge amount of loans compared to the grant. I can anticipate that 2/3 of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, the financial arm of the Next Generation EU for Italy, of the National Recovery and Resilience Facility, are loans, and only 1/3 are grants, compared to other countries, big countries like Italy, that the situation is totally different. We will see later why this is happening. Now you can see the main components. You can, as you can see in the overall Recovery and Resilience Facility, so the plan, I used to call that once again the financial arm of the plan. So the money, the real money, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, RRF, like we can call with an acronym, is 560 billion, split divided in 310 of grants and 250 of loans. So you can see that overall in Europe, the components, the percentage of grants is higher than the loan. But this is the overall situation for the EU in general, but as we will see shortly, in any country is different. So now we are talking about 560 billion, and the remaining 190, as you can see, are distributed on existing European funds for financing, traditionally financing what the EU finance, so the so-called components of direct funds, research and innovation, for example, culture, creativity, union citizenship, all the programs which take the name of Horizon Europe, Erasmus Plus, Serve, Creative Europe, and we can go further and proceed in this explanation. In which you can see that from these components, the majority, 140, are distributed as grants. This is the situation. I not want to bother you with all the percentage on the GDP and the spread over the 5 years for the financial mechanism for the disbursement and how it would be repaid. You can read it here. There is a mathematical formula, but it is nothing special. Let's go further, and now we can see the split per year starting from 2021 in the 7-year duration of the Next Generation EU. Again, here, also for having facilitate the comparison, are maintained in this Excel table the prices up to 2018, just to facilitate. Here we can see all the main components. The biggest one is the Recovery and Resilience mechanism, the device for recovery and resilience, as you can see, split in subsidies. Subsidies is the same of grant, is a synonym of grant, and the other components is loans. But as you can see in the future rows, all the funds composing the next generation EU. Some are very new and some are coming from the past. React EU, for example, is new. The Just Transition Fund is new. Of course, the Fund and Rural Development is very old. Investing EU, you remember Investing EU, the legacy of the presidency of Jean-Claude Juncker. So in Italy, with the Investing EU Fund, we used to call the Juncker Plan. Then we have Horizon Europe, of course, which is another very ancient and traditional direct fund. And the final component is RESC-EU, another very small component, as you can see in figures in money. Okay, once again, this for giving the split. Now let's see the macroeconomic impact overall, considering all the 750 billion euros. As you can see, 34 billion over 4 years, or 8.5 billion annually. And this is the part in non-returnable, refundable. So the worst part, in a sense. So, of course, we have to take into consideration for giving the comparison, which is for the proportion with the national net annual contribution to the European Union, which is around 4 and 5 billion euros. There are two kinds of contribution for the member state. One is the people who give more money than the one that they are taking back, and the opposite condition. It is not the case to talk about this. Probably I will deep this aspect in our postgraduate master in Europrogettazione with my student. I think here the audience is different, and so we have to talk about fund, having in mind also the fraudulent use of funds, of European funds, and not the technicalities. Okay, let's go further. We will deep the Italian macroeconomic impact on the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Now you can have another view in which you can see all the components, mentioned components, are affecting all amounts, in which you can see grants and guarantees also for having the loans. But we can go very, very quick. This again is all the components and the infographic that you can see having the main programs funded under multi-annual financial framework and the same components, fueling recovery and resilience. Right, now we can see the first to the financial components that we already talked. Now let's have a snapshot on the functional components of the next generation EU. Sorry, I wrote again the recovery instrument. As you can see, there are three main pillars. The first one is supporting member state and keep into consideration the rationale of the plan, of course, so the recovery from the pandemic. So the first one, of course, is the biggest, supporting member states. You can see there is, of course, the main components is the recovery and resilience facility. We already saw in the previous slides. Then the recovery assistance for cohesion and the territories for Europe. So the cohesion, the regional, in one word, cohesion of the Europe. And this is the component called React EU with 50 billions. the components of to reinforce rural program just to assure a new development of the rural economy within the Union, the European Union, the amount is 15 billion euro. And then the reinforce the just transition mechanism with 30 billions. As you can see, within the semester framework, the European semester framework, the supporting reforms of public investment and supporting just transition. This is valid overall. We will focus on the Italian one, of course, the priorities, and which are the components. That it is quite the same components of any national recovery and resilience plan, as we will see later. Let's move to talk about the supporting the private sector. Now you can see we can have an idea that the supporting member state, the amount of money, 550 billion euros, and the supporting the private sector is more or less less than more than 10% of the resources. As you can see, 56.3 billions. And you can see the three main components: the solvency support instrument for cooperation for companies and in budget difficulties and in financial crisis, due, of course, to the pandemic. The strategic investment facility, this is the component of the Invest in You, coming from the past, and the strengthened Invest in You program, again from the past, the Juncker plan, like I told you, we used to call in Italy, of 15.3 billions. Let's move to the third pillar, lesson from the crisis, 38.7 billion. Of course, in this pillar, we are the goal is to reinforce national health systems with new health program, as you can see, 7.7 billion, reinforce the rescue components, 2 billion, and reinforcing those programs which are funding research and innovation. Of course, the first one is Horizon Europe, which received from the Next Generation EU additional 13.5 billion calculated in prices of 2018 once again. And then external action and humanitarian aid with that dotation of 10.5 and 5 billion in total. Now, just to have an idea of the in text, of course, we are talking about the composition of the split in the three pillars, and which are the goal of pillar per pillar. Of course, the first pillar, the most important component is once again a recovery and resilience facility. This is the supporting to the member state pillar, the first one, with about 75% of the overall Next Generation EU initiative of the package, the overall package. As you can see, we already saw the destination of these resources comes both from transfer, 56%, and from loans, the remaining 44%. Here you can see the aim of the recovery and resilience facility is to develop the economy of the European and to boost, to give an injection of money to the European economy affected by the crisis, just to tackle the effect, the negative effect due to the COVID-19. So the first consequence is to protect the employment, to strengthen education, to boost the training and human resources system in the Europe to support the research and the innovation, apart on what we talk about. I already mentioned in the third pillar for the Horizon Europe funding. To improve the health system in all the European countries. And one important, crucial priority is to facilitate the transition of the financial sector to increase the efficiency of the public administration and the social and economic environment. The double transition, the financial, the digital one, and the environmental one. Of course, this is the most important item for funding the recovery and resilience plan of all the European countries, the 27 countries. As you will see, that the Netherlands delayed in producing the national recovery and resilience plan. I don't know why, but I will give you a graphic image on the production of the first phases of the national recovery and resilience plan. We will see later. I have to go very, very quick because I saw that we just more or less 1 hour is passed. So very quickly, the second pillar with the allocation, the overall allocation of 56.3 billion euro is dedicated to, we told, to the corporation, to the private economic system, so for companies. So the main component is to reinforce the Invest in You program. So as you can see here, it is written just to make sure a sound continuation of the Juncker plan and the recapitalization of companies which were affected by the pandemic, with the solvency support instrument. We also have a dedicated instrument for the employment, which is not completely part of this second pillar. This is, of course, is valid for all the countries with different percentage, of course, like in all the priorities of the three pillars. And this, of course, is due to the quantity of damages caused by the pandemic, which are different country by country. Let's go quickly to the third pillar. The allocation we can see is decreasing 38.7 billion. And this is for financing public goods. So in other words, the welfare, the European welfare. Of course, just to tackle the negative effect emerged during the crisis, the pandemic crisis. So to protect health system with starting new health programs at European level. This is the pillar dedicated to the citizenship in certain phase. So we can, in other terms, say that the first pillar is dedicated to the member state. The second pillar is dedicated to the private sector, to the companies, and the third pillar is dedicated to people. It is not completely the configuration used, but it more or less is a good approximation of what is in reality the recovery, the next generation EU. I was saying the recovery plan, but I stopped myself. Okay, these are the 6 policies beneath the next generation EU: the green transition, the digital transformation, or you say a lot of bibliographies coupling the green and the digital transition. Here it is the green transition and the digital transformation, as we will find in our national recovery and resilience plan. Don't be confused by the fact that these are the 6 priorities and our plan is composed by 6 missions. It's just a coincidence. Even some teams are strong, and like we will describe the mission later on, we will see, of course, some similitude with these priorities. Smart, sustainable, and inclusive growth, social and territorial cohesion, health and economic, social, and institutional resilience, of course, policy for the next generation. These are the goal, the priority beneath the next generation EU. Here, it is the last political agreement occurred on November the 10th. I remember it was something like money, additional money found in I don't know, in strange place because nobody was expecting a fortune additional amount of money for this 15 billion euros, always in 18th price, in 18th value for these programs. As you can see, Rise in Europe, Invest in You, EU for Health, Erasmus Plus, Creative Europe, Rights and Values, Integrated Border Management Funds, European Border and Coastal Guard, Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Instrument, and Humanitarian Aid. It was a gift, an additional gift for then the next generation EU. Right, this is the framework, the introduction. Now we can land with our plane in the Italian National Recovery and Resilience Plan, Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza. First of all, with a plane flying away, some slides with the history. Recovery and recapping with a recap of the main important dates for the NRRP. The first one is, you can see, take about the date of the lockdown and see how the Union was resilient. Because on May the 27th, we were exit from the lockdown since days, because you remember the lockdown was from April, 8th of April. There was the women festivity, more or less, up to May, beginning of May. I remember I was able to play tennis. It was the 18th of May, and I went to the tennis court with the champagne bottles, because after months locked in our houses, it was tragic. So on the May 27th, the President von der Leyen presented this really unprecedented next generation EU. The fact that the plan, since the Rome Treaty, so since decades and decades, for the first time, there was the provision of the common European debt. It was something really important. I remember I started to write article, even I'm not a jurist, but I'm fascinated by the policy coming from the European Union. And for me, it was something really shocking. This having the new of this next generation EU program. It was really fantastic. I cannot forget. But let's move forward. In December of the same year, the European Parliament approved the next generation EU. For sure, you remember that there was 5 countries against the plan, the frugal countries. You remember, probably. It was something very tough in terms of political agreement. And let me say, in my view, probably you can remember that the presidents of the Union was from Germany, and this probably helped a lot the approval of the Next Generation EU package. I want just to underline this fact. I want to I put the number of votes for the approval. 541 positive votes, 81 against, with 66 abstention. Of course, you remember that after the Brexit, the number of MEP, or member of the European Parliament, are 705. So you can see the majority was very, very high. Let's go and arrive to Italy. January the 12th, 2021, one year later, after more or less the first news of the COVID-19, Codogno in Italy, Vo, Euganeo, people, the first people coming from China with the COVID. We are under the Giuseppe Conte II government. So Giuseppe, like Donald Trump used to say, Giuseppe Conte II government that presented on the January the 12th, the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, so-called Next Generation Italy, to the Parliament. It was the proposal of the Council of the Minister, of course. A lot of rumors, because not before in the Parliament, but first in the Presidents of the Council of Ministers, a typical Italian thing, let me say. Let's see, with an asterisk, the Next Generation Italy, the National Recovery Resilience Plan, lasting composed by 168 pages. Here you can see the asterisk, there is the hyperlink, and you can download the version of the 12th of January 2021. Do not do that, because it's the old plan, not the one which is in force now. Of course, now it is already since November last year strongly change more, but it is the first version. Why I'm so let me say experienced in this plan? Because I started studying the plan immediately, because I received as a task to produce, to write with some important Italian economists, some projects to be inserted inside the National Recovery Resilience Plan. So I studied immediately, and I suddenly study our plan and make the comparison with other important plans. But apart of my personal consideration, let's see that on January the 15th, of course, the Parliament received the National Recovery and Resilience Plan, the Italian Recovery and Resilience Plan, and start all the hearings in the two chambers of the Parliament. But in few days, in on the end of January, a lot of rumors circulated about the fact that Brussels strongly criticized the plan because of the lack of projects and stuff like that. Let's move forward, and we can see the cover page on the left, the first Conte II version, and the second one is the Draghi version, the one in force. If you can see a strange line in the bottom of the slide, this is the table, the Excel table I produce with the recovery resilience plan. Be honest, it is unreadable, like you can see from this slide. For print that Excel table, it takes a plotter, because it is a table long more or less 3 meters, because of the composition of the plan. We are arriving in a few seconds on that. Well, let's come back and say that of course, you remember at the end of January, the Conte II government resigned. And so and all started very big, and all the experts start saying, and now what will happen about the Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza? Luckily, with the Draghi government, the plan was not changed in the configuration, the Excel table I'm talking, but increased, as you can see in the slide, of more or less 100 pages, to be for the precision, 101 pages. Why? We will see why this 100 pages is adding to the plan. But let's go with the historical timeline. On April 30, 2021, the government officially transmitted the text to Brussels. And on the 4th of May, the ECOFIN, and the 4th of May, as Conte II government made, this plan was issued by the presidents of the Minister Council, and then approved, transmitted to the Italian Parliament, both the chambers. Of course, the plan contains the Italian side of the Recovery and Resilience Facility, which we will see is the biggest in Europe. But let's go back and see in the timetable what happened on June 22nd, when the European Commission published the proposal of Council decision implementation. Council, the Council of the European Union has a variable configuration. Once is composed by the Minister of Economic and Finance, is called the ECOFIN. And this was the evaluation, the judgment of the ECOFIN. As you can see, the positive assessment with the score, la pagella, with rates 10 A and only 1 B, so more or less the top, with the Italian National and Recovery Plan criticized in the beginning. As you can see, afterwards in July, there was the approval of ECOFIN of other member state plans, 12, and then on September, another group of 2, etc., etc. It is not the case to go further. Let's talk about the plan. The plan, well, I'm not a football, a soccer addict, but if I can be a coach, a mister, I can define for the National Recovery Resilience Plan the scheme 336. You will never find on the bibliography. It is just an invention of mine. It's just to put in on the hand, on the brain, the main number of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. What is meaning 335? 3, first of all, are the strategic axes of the plan: digitalization and innovation. The second is, we can read together, ecological transition. And the third one is social inclusion. These are the main goal. All the plan is designed having in mind these 3 strategies. The second 3, cross-cutting priorities. Why cross-cutting? Because transversally, horizontally, these are valid for any measure of the plan. The 3 cross-cutting priorities, the second 3 is strengthening the role of women, tackling and contrasting gender discrimination. The second is young, increasing the skills, the capability, the employment prospect of young people, of youth. And the third one is typically Italian, to rebalance the gap from south to north. And so to rebalancing territorial disequilibrium in this sense. And these are the second 3 Now let's move to six. Six, of course, are the missions, the structural mission in which it is split the plan, the so-called thematic areas of intervention. I'm giving I'm giving figures and figures because these six missions are grouped in 16 components, which are uh, the functional part of the any mission area. And these 16 components are split in 43 lines of actions with homogeneous and coherent projects. For this reason, if we try to put on an Excel table this configuration in 6 missions, 16 components, and 43 for lines for action, and you put, of course, the project on down, you can have this 3-meter long table of Excel. Let's now talk about money. So as we now know perfectly, the recovery and resilience facility is the main components of the money of the plan. Italy has 191.5 billion euros. And this is the biggest amount in Europe. Why Italy got the first amount of money in the recovery and resilience facility? Very easy, because Italy is the country most affected by the pandemic. For this reason, we received more than the double of the second. We will see in the comparison with the other national recovery and resilience plan, the split per country. Let's move to another peculiarity of the Italian plan. Our next Italy recovery, next generation Italy, or Italian recovery and resilience, has 68.9 of the overall of 191.5 billion in grants and 122.6 billion in loans. As you can see, 2/3 and 1/3. For precision, the grants components, as you can see in the slide, is 36%, and the loans components last 64%. It is not finished because this is only the European money, the recovery and resilience. The government decided, given to this contribution of the European Union, the European Commission, to add a supplementary fund of 30.6 billion in prices of in value 2018 always. And this is founded by a multi-year budget deviation of the Italian budget. And this was approved by the Council of Ministers on April 15th in 2001, more or less when the plan was submitted to the European institution. It is not yet finished because in addition, we are having other resources. You remember the first pillar, the first block of Next Generation EU. We mentioned that the recovery facility is the biggest component, but there are also other programs. So 13 billions comes from the REACT EU program. So if we sum these three components, the recovery and resilience facility, the supplementary Italian fund, and the component of REACT EU, we are having the overall budget of 236.14 billion euros. You can see it is highlighted, it is red and bold, because this is the value, the amount, the overall amount of the Italian National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Of course, in value of 2018. It is the 10th time that I'm saying that, but it is the case to repeat and repeat and repeat. because if we consider in actual money, of course, this amount is increasing a lot. Also, taking into consideration the inflation that we experienced recently. Let's talk about other feature of the plan. 70% is allocated in public investment, in line of the overall next generation EU. We can have more or less the same percentage. Remember the first pillar and the second pillar. About 21% it is dedicated to private investment, to recovery the private companies from the pandemic. Of course, 70% and 21%, it is not 100%, because the rest of the money comes from the development and cohesion funds taken by the past multi-annual financial frame. Let's see now another important and shocking component. 70%, sorry, I don't know why I wrote not in figure but in letters, the 70% of the grants should be committed in investment in 2020, 2 years ago, and spent last year. So the 70% of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan is gone. It's already committed and spent. And this is important. We are now having only the 30%. The remaining part is spent between 2023 and 2026. Why? This is the same financial flow of the Next Generation EU. The biggest part of the Recovery and Resilience Facility for Next Generation EU is spent in the first 3 years. And the other one is a small part. And this, why the ration of this? Because we have to give a shock to the economic system of the EU with a lot of money, and then we can, in a sense, relax a little bit for the 3 years of duration of the plan. The Italian Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza comprises 930 project sheets, project form. Probably 10 of these one are also mine. I am not sure of that, but it is very possible. I wrote this project dealing with tourism in Italy, and we will see that tourism in Italy in the National Recovery Resilience Plan it's a tragedy. It's treated in a really nasty way. We will see later. It is a personal consideration, of course. Let's see what is the contribution in terms of revenues in the economic system. So in other words, let's measure the macroeconomic impact. This is the big difference between the first National Recovery and Resilience Plan from Conte II government and the Draghi one. The 100 pages more is dedicated to evaluate, to simulate the impact of this huge amount of money on the Italian economy. This was requested by the European Union, and this has been made using 2 macroeconomic models. We will see shortly in the end of this lecture. The first one is a very European one, is the macroeconomic model named Quest, the third version, which is a dynamic general economic equilibrium model, and which has been developed by the European Commission, the Joint Research Center, so the Economist Department, GRC. Let's see how it works. Sorry, this I left in Italian because we are talking about a PNRR, a nasty acronym, with these 2 R that somebody used to cut the final R. not considering that PNR is another important thing, is the a national plan for research issued by the CNR and the Ministry of Research, which is something completely different. See the plan, and let me see an infography of the plan. It is not made for fantasy in fantasy like the French poster for the Olympic Games. These are the 8 areas of the European Green Deal in this ball, which is the configuration, the draw of the planet, the Earth planet. Let's go to the right side, the most important, because you can see the hierarchical level. We have the mission, the components, 6 mission, 16 components, and then we have 43 action measures, which are split in investment from one side and reform. This is the overall configuration of any recovery and resilience plan in all the European countries. These are two important the base, the ground, the really the basic block, the basic component of the plan: investment and reforms. Why this configuration? Because the an investment plan like the recovery and resilience should deal with investment, but also in changing and in speed upping, in cancelling bottleneck, something that it is seen like an obstacle for an economic system. And this is the value, the starting part of a so-called program, performance-based. This means that for having the money, you should prove that you have achieved both an investment and a reform. Only in this way, we are sure it is assured to receive the money, not before. This is the first, the golden rule of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Let's go quickly. These are the mission, the 6 mission. You can see the second one is the biggest, is that one dealing with the green revolution and ecological transition. We have not a lot of time to see all the missions, so we can go very quick. But coming back to the figure, again, sorry for the Italian language, another feature of all the recovery and resilience plan in all the European countries is the so-called milestone and target. And here you can see the total amount of our plan is 527, something really shocking, a lot of things to do. And if we consider reforms and investment as the 2 main components, here you can see that we have to obtain 63 reforms, apart we already done, of course, and 134 investments. But if we are considering also the so-called sub-investment, the figure is increased at 235, something really shocking. And these are the figures compared to the 191.5 billion euro split in grants and loans. Very quickly, now comparison between National Recovery and Resilience Plan and Horizon Europe. Here you can see the structure of the plan. Well, don't be confused, because the Italian Recovery and Resilience Plan is not divided into pillars, at least is not defined to be a pillars. But we can talk about 3 logical blocks. Of course, if we have in mind the overall, the general structure of Next Generation EU, it's very easy to understand why. The first one are the challenges, the strategic challenges in Italy. Improving resilience in Italy. Sorry, I wrote twice resilience, made a mistake. I'm very sorry. Reduce the social and economic impact of the COVID-19, support the green and the digital revolution or transition, and rising the economy's growth potential and job creation. These are the strategic challenges. The missions or intervention or cluster or subject areas that we can call in any different way are the one we already wrote, seen in the previous slide. Then there is another, the third block is the action project. So what is dealing with supporting policies, public investment and concession to speed up bureaucracy, public administration reform, increase the potential and the impact of research and development, the justice reform, the labor market reform are important action projects of the plan. Let's focus on the 5 missions, the one we already see in money in the previous slides. And now let's see Horizon Europe. This is Horizon Europe. Horizon Europe is split in 3 blocks, in 3 pillars: excellence, scientific excellence. Sorry, I capsized the order with the 3 program. Horizon Europe is a framework program, so it's a program of programs in this sense, framework. And the first branch of programs is dedicated to science, to funding the new technology, the science. The second block is dedicated to global challenges and the competitiveness, and the European competitiveness. The overall, we're talking about a European direct fund, so having in mind all the 27 countries. And the third block is to find the innovation. The first is the research, the second, the global challenges, and the third, the innovation. Let's focus on the global challenges. Let's see, we can read it very fastly. Health, culture, creativity, and an inclusive society, civil security for society, digital industry and space, climate, energy, and mobility, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and environment. Furthermore, there is also the research, the GRC, the Common Research Center. Now let's put the 2 central components of the 2 previous slides. The challenges, the global challenges of Horizon Europe on the left. Why on the left? Because it was planned in 2018. And then the second logical block of the National Recovery Resilience Plan, the 6 missions. Look, if we have a comparison, I wrote the same topic with the same color. You can see that substantially the 6 mission of Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza has a real clear, let me say, inspiration on Horizon Europe program global challenges. And this is a food for thought, because we have to keep into consideration who wrote this plan. All right, now let's go to the final part of my lecture. No, it is not really the final, because the very final one will be have a snapshot on the economic impact of the plan. Well, it is 1 hour and a half. We probably can skip the pause. I don't know if you agree on that, because I have a lot of things to say. Sorry, 2 hours is a few time. Of course, we can deep. I'm talking about this is referred to the participant of my postgraduate master in Euro planning, in which the PNR is an important part of the the syllabus of the course. Okay, so agree to skip the pause, or we can stop for a while for some minutes for having a pause. Give me yes or no, or no. Otherwise, I can proceed.
As you want.
Yeah, we can proceed.
Oh, thank you. Very diplomatic, this thing. Okay, sorry. I don't know. Afterwards, there is a Professor Arezzo, Maria Felice Arezzo. Probably we can ask her to make a short pause, just to recover for my lecture.
I will. I will.
Okay. Grazie, Maria Felice. Okay, let's see. Let's talk about. Let's make this comparison. To be honest, why I made this sort of technical comparison. As I told you, I was an important working association in Italy give me this task to explore possibility to write some form from project form for the piano. And this is it is an Italian association of tourism subject. It's a Confturismo. So having this task immediately on tourism, I went through the other plan. I started with France Relance, the same National Recovery and Resilience Plan in France, to see how the tourism was considered in that plan. Then I take the idea to proceed in this comparison because it is important. Let me say it is in some for some reason it is not possible to have a real comparison between plan and plan. The Italian with the Spanish, the French, the French and the Greek, like we are doing, because the economy, the economic system, of course, is different. The amount of money is dramatically different, and the effect of the pandemic is different, country per country. So we can have this comparison, keeping into consideration this important element. Having this in mind, start with the next generation EU, 700, remember 750 billion euro in price, in value of 2018. Let's see the split for Europe. First of all, we already said that we are talking about recovery resilience facility. The recovery resilience facility we already saw from Italy is 191.5 billion euro. I told you it is more than the double of the second one. The second one is, as you can see in the slide, is Spain. Spain with 69.5 billion euro, of course. Let's see, the third one is France, more or less 40 billion euro, 39.4. The third one is Greece, 31.2. The fourth is Romania, 25.2. Portugal with 16.6, and Germany with 25 and 0.5. Of course, Germany should be placed after Romania. I capsized the order with Portugal, but because we are making the comparison with the Greek and the Portuguese one in the cover page, at least. Well, let's see the physical feature of this fund in between a direct fund and an indirect fund. If we can take a characteristic of the direct fund, we are already told that it is a performance-based fund. Another feature is to get a pre-financing. As you probably remember, in the summer 2021, we received something like 12.5 billion euro, like a budget an Italian budget for 1 year. And this was an add-on coming from the Recovery and Resilience Facility. And not only, this was the 13% of pre-financing. As you can see, most of the countries received the 13% of pre-financing. But as you can see, Romania, no, because Romania not received a pre-financing. And if the majority of the countries got 13%, Germany got only the 9%. You can see in red. Other characteristic. I told you that Italy, further than 191.5 billion euro, added a supplementary fund financed by the Italian government. The same did France, and the same did Greece. France, the French plan, France Relance, allocated the overall value is 1 billion euro because the 60% more or less of the money was added by the French government. And the Greek government made much more because also the Greek plan is the overall value is 100 billion euro. And as you can see, the third line here in the slide, the recovery and resilience components is only 31.2. So the Greek government put more or less 2 times more more than 2 times more than what received from the recovery and resilience facility. Now let's start the comparison. But first of all, here you can see, sorry, again, easy in Italian, the amount of recovery and resilience facility in all the European countries. As you can see, the circle, the big circle, the Italian one. You can see the Spain is the second, third, the France, fourth is Poland, then Germany and Romania, as we saw, etc., etc. A characteristic, very particular, we will see in the next slide, the percentage of grants and the percentage of loans. Look here, this is, sorry, it is in I left in Italian. Loans is the blue one, grants, sovvenzione, is in yellow. And we can see that we are having 2/3 of loans and only 1/3 of grants. And so this, if you take, if you want to give, to evaluate, to assess this configuration, it's able to say that we are covered by debts because we have 2/3 of the entire recovery and resilience facility as a debt to be repaid in the future. And as you can see, grants. France is less, but only grants and not loans. Poland, you can see a little percentage of loans. So it's easily say that we are covered by debt. You have to keep into consideration that this is not something that gave us Ursula von der Leyen on our head. This is a decision, is a strategic decision of the Italian government because it was very smart. Because if you consider the percentage of investment founded by the National Recovery Resilience Plan, it was already existing projects. So project already started. The plan is boosting the economy. So the most important part of the 70% of the public investment were already planned. So to the smart thing to substitute the coverage of the fund of an already in place investment replaced by the one of the recovery and resilience plan, it was very, very smart. Why? Because we are saving something like 8 billion and half of interest for lower interest rate given by the plan compared to the one of the Italian public spending, of the Italian debt. So it was really a smart, very smart decision in terms of political economy. So to swap this investment with the Italian one with the European one that costs less in terms of interest. So this to say to the people against the European Union, it is fake that Europe is covering us of debt. It is the Italian government of the time very smart to have this idea, this strategic idea. Okay, this you can see it was important because nobody says, journalists are not saying this important fact, which is history, of course. You can see we have an infographic, sorry, of the European Council also for this particular. Let's see this. I promised to you the situation at 1st of March, 1 year after the submission, more or less, of the Recovery Resilience Plan. As you can see, 26 recovery plans were submitted on March the 1st. As you can see, why 26 and not 27? You can see on the right, Netherlands, the Dutch people submitted the National and Recovery Resilience Plan later, very late, in the end of 2022. The row after the yellow one is the approval of the European Commission at the first time, because for some plans, as you can see, the Polish, the Hungarian, the Sweden, the Bulgarian one were rejected the first plan in March and asked for the integration. Of course, the decision adopted by the European Council was the same for 22 Recovery Resilience Plan. The one receiving the pre-financing, sorry, again, this is in Italian, is, as you can see, 21 countries. Germany not received, for example, the 13%, but some countries like Estonia, for example, Romania, Bulgaria not received the pre-financing. And this at March 31, March the 1st, sorry, we had again already the tranche of funding already received, submitted and received at 1 year. As you can see, probably I skipped to say that we have the 2 moments per year, in end of June and end of December, in which we can have we can request for money to be reimbursed on the project. The mechanism, remember, is performance based, so you have to spend money to achieve results, to perform projects, and then you are reimbursed. This is the mechanism. So let's see the cover pages of some other plans homologous to the PNRR. We can see España Puede in Spain, France Relance, we talked about, Greece 2.0, Recuperar Portugal, PRR, the German Aufbau is like a dog barking. It's typical of the German language. And please, on the right, don't ask me to pronounce the Polish one, because I'm not able to pronounce Krajkowy Plan and stuff like that. These are the cover page of the plan. Let's take at least 3 and make comparison with our plan very quickly, because the time is really, we have 20 minutes left. Start with the España Puede. España Puede has not missions like our, and not 6 like our Italian plan. but there are so-called axes, cross axes. You can see ecological transition, digital transition, territorial and social cohesion, and equality. More or less, we can say similar. Of course, the goal, the issue, the themes are the same because they derives directly from the next generation EU. So again, the issues should be more or less the same. The configuration is changing, but what in terms of policy are behind are, of course, the same. As you can see, if we have four axes, we have 10 leading policies, which should be that which should categorized already categorized, of course, to recovery. Remember also from the pandemic. So in Spain, the main components were dedicated to modernization and digitalization of the industry, more than the public administration like in Italy. Of course, founding science and innovation is another, and the national health, the Spanish national health system, it is the biggest, one of the biggest components. You can see 70%. The another important policy is related to education and capacity building to create new jobs. And this, of course, is the direct consequence of the kind of the economy in which is placed the plan, so the Spanish economy. So if we proceed in the hierarchical order, remember we have my configuration of 336 and then 16 and 43. The Spanish one is 4, 10, 30. 30 because we have 30 components in which we are having 212 measures split always in investment and reform. I remember the previous slide. And in Spain, as you can see, they have to achieve, to realize, to post 110 investments and to place 102 reforms. The final line is the link where you can find additional information of the plan. Let's see, I want to talk about why now we are in delay in our national plan. We are not a lot of time, also because we are talking about comparison, so it is another story. But this is the direct consequence of the amount of investment and the amount of reforms. Why? Because if we have to ask for money to be reimbursed by the European Union, demonstrating a certain activity performed, to demonstrate that we did a reform is much easier than to demonstrate that we did an investment. Because for having an investment, imagine one big investment in our train from Salerno to Reggio Calabria, not the motorway, which is already after years here being done, but the high-speed train. So to demonstrate, you have to see the railway. If for a reform, you can say, okay, I put the commission within the parliament to write the reform, and so it is done. This is tricky because to say that I'm starting with the parliament's commission to create a reform, but to implement a reform is completely different. So we were in the first 2 years okay with our milestone and target because we had much more reforms than investment. Now it is swapping the situation, and this is causing the delay. And we will have another lecture to see how it's changed starting from last autumn, our recovery resilience plan. Sorry for this deviation from the original topic. Let's go to see another plan, France Relance, 290 pages, bigger in terms of page depth than the Italian one, for only 4 billion euro funded by the Recovery and Resilience Facility and 60 billion added on top by the French government. The plan is split in 3 macro areas. Ecology is more or less one-third, 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 more or less. Ecology with 30 billions and key measures. This is translated from France. The Ma Prime Renove is related to the industry, and so the being transforming in green the French industry with conversion premium, ecological bonum, and etc., etc. So 5 axes dedicated to ecology. The second macro area is competitiveness, 34 billion, with 5 flagship measures to export support. Also, you can see probably in Germany, the components dedicated to the corporation, to the private company, is bigger than the Italian one. Support the digital transformation, equity credits and recovery. This is the the news, La Nuova Sabatini in Italy, our law, or the transition 4.5, or the very recent approved last week 5.0 with the credit recovery equity. The third block, the third macro area is measure. So we can say that in 3 macro areas, we are having in the French plan 15 key measures. Of course, this key measure is activating other sub-measures, which are always investment and reforms. The number of reforms in France, I have to say, is less than, of course, the one we saw both in Italy and in Spain. The last line, of course, you can find some more all the plan, the France Relance plan, priorities, and the document. Let's move to Greece 2.0. We have 10 minutes left, so I have to rush a bit. The Greek plan is very so the pedigree of the Greek plan is very important because it has been written by a Nobel Prize, the economist Sir Christopher Pissaridis, who is a big professor, lecturer, teacher of the London School of Economics. The plan amounts of up to 91 billion, in which only 31.2 comes from the Recovery Resilience Facility. Again, 2/3 more put by the Greek government. We have to say that Greece was not very, probably is in Europe one of the country who had less effect from the pandemic. Less people that died from the pandemic, and also the infection was really less than in other countries. As you can see, again, the plan is split in 4 pillars. These are really pillars: green transition, digital transformation, employment, skills, social cohesion, and inside there is health, education, and social protection, of course, and private investment and transformation of the economy. You can see it is very pragmatic, this plan. Probably it's more similar to the Italian one than, for sure, France Relance, which appears completely different. Even, of course, the strong strategies and policies are always the same. As you can see, there are 18 key reforms to be achieved on a 68 in total, a little bit more than in Italy. We have 63 reforms, and 13 key investments upon 110 total. Remember, the same figure of Italy, but if we consider sub-investment, we are having almost the double. Here there is the link in which you can see in Greek letters, no, I'm joking, in English, the Greece 2.0 plan written by Professor Pisani. Well, I think it is enough for the comparison. I told you it's difficult to talk about comparison because we are talking about making comparison of apples with pears or pineapples because it's completely different. But just to have an idea on figures and on effects that a plan could write on an economic system. About impact on economic system, this is the last. We will go very, very quick because this is really the economist side of my lecture, because we have to describe the macroeconomic model used in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. As I already told you, the forecast is based on the working the functioning of two macroeconomic models. The one I already mentioned is the one developed by the GRC of the European Commission, Quest third version model. Quest, now I can be more precise, means quarterly European simulation tool. It's a chopper, a big chopper. You can visualize a macroeconomic model. The other one of the Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza is typical Italian. It has been developed, it is used by the Bank of Italy, and the name is MacGEM-IT, where MacGEM means multi-sector applied computable general equilibrium model. Now, probably you can say, you can ask, why two models? Big question. Very easy, because a model is dedicated to certain feature of an economic system, and the other model is based on another feature completely different. For example, if using Quest, it is not possible to evaluate aspects like the contribution of any single mission, for example, but for MacGEM-IT, it's difficult to take into consideration the financial flow of the recovery resilience. So for this reason, having two different macroeconomic models with different functionalities, you can have more information. Take into account that for evaluating the macroeconomic impact of Horizon Europe, done in 2020 before the pandemic, but for the operational of Horizon Europe starting in 2021, the European Commission used three models, not two. One is, it was already Quest 3. One, it is a very famous model called the Mimesis, which is not developed by the European Union. And the third one is Romolo. Romolo is made by the Drawing Research Center, the DG Economic, and the DG Regio, because it has regional capabilities. Romolo means regional and something, I cannot remember the acronym, but it takes into consideration territorial features, taking all the 268 regions comprising the European Union and evaluating the 10 best economic sector in terms of value. Let's go. Sorry for another digression for the team we are affording now. Let's come back to the two models. Let's make the comparison. I told different characteristic. The first one of Quest is the fact that it is a dynamic, stochastic general equilibrium model. The acronym is DSGE. Instead, MacGEM-IT could be dynamic, but for the purpose of the national Italian recovery and resilience plan was used only a static version, just able to capture different features. In fact, we can talk about a computable general equilibrium model. So the family, the group of models called GGE. Let's see the feature. Sorry, again, the first line is in Italian. No, sorry, all the slide is in Italian. Quest is able to capture all the financial flow, feature like the effect of the productivity of factors, of input on the GDP. Instead, MacGMT is based on a matrix called SAM, in which it's working like a matrix, a double entry matrix in input and output. And we will see the feature able to capture dynamical effect of both investment and reform. Instead, Quest is more able to find, for example, the cross-cutting priorities effect. So to capture gender, for example, feature, territorial, so the unbalancement from south region and north region, this it is captured with better with Quest than MacGem IT, just to have an idea. Let's see again here some features. We can go very, very fast also because we finished. Spending, keep into consideration like an injection of 100 or more or less 200 billion on an economic system, what can produce in terms of all the sectors of the economy. And for this reason, it is important also with Quest mainly to give an idea, an evaluation of which is the contribution of the Recovery Resilience Facility, which is the contribution of REACT-EU, and which is the contribution of the complementary or supplementary funds given by the Italian government. And this is very important, of course, to be evaluated with Quest, for example. But of course, with Quest, again, it is not possible to disaggregate the contribution provided by any mission of the plan. And this is the reason why considering the two models. Here, sorry, I left the slide. I anticipated the one used to evaluate the impact of the European GDP of Horizon Europe with the three models. We can go very, very fast. Okay, on Quest, we already described all the features, the most important features here. You can probably have other. There is the possibility to configure Quest in two ways: the restricted cache capturing the financial flow, and the unrestricted one, just to give, for example, the evaluation of some kind of economic policy strategy. For example, a budget spending, for example, in the short period, the budget spending, of course, give recession to the economy. But on the long term, it's increasing the overall development of the economy, including the GDP. This dynamic characteristic of a policy is taken into consideration by Quest. I don't want to bother you on this stuff, which are very stuff of economists, as I told you before. Let's say that for giving a simulation of the assessment of the macroeconomic effect, it was described, choose to describe three scenarios, one high, one medium, and one low, because of course these are projections, these are simulation, and which is changing dynamically thanks to also exogenous effects. let's say in conclusion that in terms of GDP growth, both the models, even with different arguments, are giving more or less the same results. And this is very important. As you can see in red, more or less the growth in 20 years is foreseen 3.5% on the GDP, Italian GDP, and also an increased number of employment and important employment like you. So people, university postgraduate students, for example, people that are giving a researcher, that I'm dealing with research and innovation, and this is important. These are in Italian. I want to skip this one. I prepare also the explanation of both in terms of West and MacGem IT. This is the matrix of the MacGem IT. Sorry, it is in Italian, so let's skip very quick. Let's see that the theoretical structure of the MacGem IT model, it is changing. Instead of SAM, social accountability matrix, it is now transforming in environmental and social accountability matrix as the input-output matrix based of the model. Okay, it is not the time to go and to show all the results. If you have the patience and you want, of course, you will have all the slide available. Well, I think, okay, this is the comparison with Quest and MacGem IT with the different graphics, also showing different peaks arriving from the end of the investment, so the end of the effect of the money come put in the economy. So 2023, remember, we already told that the first 3 years of life cycle of the model of the the plan was the richest one in terms of disbursement of financial flow. Well, these are the assessment mission by mission. I skip it. Okay, so yes, also because I'm 5 minutes more. This is the impact mission by mission. You can see all the components, how he's contributing on the GDP, and also the projection considering the investment and reforms. And the main, of course, split by the 5 mission of the plan. Again, it is not the case to bother you with this slide. Anyway, I left for curiosity of somebody. Well, thank you very much. If there are some questions, of course, I'm available. Otherwise, I'm passing the floor of my friends Maria Felice, Professor Arezzo.